Hi everyone, so today we're just going to have a brief look at how exactly I chose my university and the route that I took to get to where I ended up by the time I was 21. And hopefully you'll find this useful, especially if you're in year 11, year 12 or year 13, or you've just left school. And I hope it gives you some ideas in helping you choose and helping you pick a strategy to help you choose your route and how you want to get to where you want to get in the future, that end result. So now, before we start, I think it's important to say that I by no means think that university is right for everyone. I am very well aware of all the other options available to people, and the fact that the majority of young people don't actually go to university. The majority take different routes, whether that be from college, apprenticeships, straight into work, or all those other routes that are available to you guys. But I think it's useful to make videos like this because this is the route that I've been through, and it worked out for me, and so it might work out for some of you as well, or it might help you to see exactly why you don't want to go this route and help you make that decision too. Like I said, because I've done this before, I feel very comfortable giving my own view on it and telling my own story about it, so hopefully this is useful. So before we jump in, just a quick reminder to hit that like button so that you don't miss out on any other brilliant videos such as this one that will help you work your way through education, and that includes your GCSEs, AS, A-levels and beyond into university and into the working life. So without further ado, let's jump back 10 years. So 10 years ago, there was a 17-year-old Nathan who, after thinking and pondering about what I should do with my future, had decided that I was going to go to university route. I was going to go and get a degree. I thought with myself for ages over which course I would do though. So I wasn't sure whether I was going to do civil engineering, physics, architecture, graphic design, animation, or some other arts-based course entirely. So to start off with, to help me narrow it down, I first did a whole lot of exploring and looking into what interested me and what I'd enjoyed doing and where I could end up working. So to do this, I used my family contacts, my parents, uncles and aunts and older siblings, the people that they worked with, people that they knew. And, I managed to get a few chances to go and see people's offices, their studios if they were artists and things like that, and to figure out what their day-to-day life was like and what their job was like, and also the process that it took to get to the stage that they were in that job, and of course also figure out how much they were earning. Also, please bear in mind that although YouTube did exist back then, although the internet was a very good resource back then, it was nowhere near the level that it's at now. So I couldn't just go on YouTube and find really solid and good examples of people giving honest and varied, like all over the world, not just America or something like that, honest and varied examples and insights into their work. So although you have that ability now with videos such as this one, it wasn't as simple as that back 10 years ago, back in 2010. So I didn't just limit myself to my parents and family's contacts. I also made sure to go and do some hunting myself, some active hunting myself. In fact, I think the majority of it was literally me pushing stuff. And it was stuff like I would be walking through the park, there was a guy painting a mural there, so I would walk over to him and quiz him. And he was happy to answer my questions and give me responses and useful information. And I hope that you've learnt this from watching my channel. If you don't ask, you don't get. So be sure to ask people and don't be afraid of asking people, because the most they can do is say no, and that's it. Conversation done. Otherwise, the other side is that you could get a really good insight, because from talking to that guy, I realised I didn't want to do graphic design. So don't be afraid to quiz people, even if you don't know them, because people are willing to talk about themselves. People like talking about themselves. That's why I'm sort of here. I don't really mind talking about myself. So after all my sort of research and looking into everything, I decided to go with architecture. But this is where it starts to get interesting and a little bit messy too. So it's the end of year 12 and the beginning of year 13, around there. I've written a personal statement for architecture, and although I'm slightly questioning the length of time that it takes to fully qualify, I think I'm going to do this. But then I started visiting universities for their open days. This is when it dawned on me that as cool as a subject that architecture was, when it came to my goals in life, what I wanted to achieve, where I envisioned myself being, architecture did not give me what I wanted. Art was what I wanted. But there were so many different areas under art that once again opened up the question of which art industry do I go for? Which art degree do I go for? Now, the logical option for my next step, so immediately after year 13, was to go on an art and design foundation course. It was free. I could go to a prestigious and local university, and it would help me try out loads of stuff that would help me to make an informed decision when it came to my degree course the year after, because I was still pretty unsure whether I wanted to do animation, illustration, fine art, or anything else. Maybe I'd still want to do architecture and I would change my mind. Who knew? So I started visiting open days for foundation courses and applied for University of the Arts London, the CCW course. That's Chelsea, Camberwell and Wimbledon. They sort of combined on that course for that year. I don't know if they still do. And it seemed pretty cool. I looked into it, spoke to quite a few people about it, and it looked pretty cool. And even when I went on to the interview, which I'll talk about later, the portfolio view and all that, I really liked it. I liked the vibe of the place. I liked the journey there. It was all cool. But then something happened that messed everything up. The government decided that my cohort would be the last to pay £3,000. Well, I think it was about 3,100, 3,300, something around there. £3,000 a year for our university courses. After this year, it would be £9,000, and as you know, since it has continued to rise. So then the mad scramble for everyone to get onto a university course before the price went up began. And for better or worse, I fell into that trend. I said, you know what? If I'm going to do a degree, I need to do it now. I need to save myself from having to pay, in 1 year, what would have been my entire course's worth of tuition. So yeah, please remember that my entire degree course cost the same amount as my 1 year of teacher training, because the teacher training started after that date that the government has set. So I decided to go through UCAS and apply for a degree in fine art, the subject which I was leaning towards anyway. And I did that while also applying for the foundation course. So that was still on the table. Now, we're in September 2010, I believe. So beginning of year 13. And I chose 5 universities I wanted to apply for. One happened to be Oxford. Now, unfortunately, the head of sixth form at the time at my school, at my sixth form, took me aside and said, you want to apply for Oxford, but you've got a problem. So I'm like, what's the problem? I'm, pretty much a straight A student. I'm predicted A stars and A's only. And she says to me, you may be predicted straight A's and A stars for the 4 subjects you're taking now, but for your AS subjects, you took 5 subjects, and the last one, the one that you've dropped, maths, you got a C for in AS. And that was that. Because of that, the school wouldn't support my application to Oxford. They said there wasn't a high enough chance of me getting in, simply because of that. And it was a bit disappointed. One, because of course I dropped the subject. I had no love for maths. I left it. It was behind me. I didn't see why it should affect, the fact that I was taking those 4 subjects and was predicted to get really good in those 4 subjects that I was taking now. So why should I have to, miss out on applying for that university just because of that? And also there's the fact that it's never nice for this institution that you've been in for the last 7 years of your life to turn around and say, you want to move on to here, we're not supporting you in that. In fact, we're not going to let you, essentially. And, although I guess it was fair, because to be honest, that head of sixth form had gone to both Cambridge and Oxford and knew how they worked pretty well. It's still it's still a bit of a disappointment. It still got to me a bit. I hate things being chosen for me, or being forced to choose something, or being told I can't do something. But yeah, you do what you can. You work with what you can. So I now had a gap. I had 4 choices. They were UCL, Goldsmiths, Kingston and Central St Martin's, so University of the Arts London. And of course that gap that Oxford used to take up. And by now I'd visited a few universities, and I found that UCL, despite it being the most prestigious of all my university choices, wasn't actually appealing to me that much. I'd gone there on an open day. I'd seen their art studios and their campus and everything, and I didn't like it. It's hard to explain, but it just didn't give me a good vibe. I really didn't want to be there. Goldsmiths had very, very, very nice vibe. I really liked it. And even through my art education and doing my art GCSE and A level, I'd come to know about Goldsmiths a bit and the artists that came out of it, so the YBA, and the impact that they'd had. And it was in a really cool part of London, in my opinion. Good transport links, so the overground was there. They had a really good Caribbean community there, and their restaurants were there, which, you know, something that wouldn't necessarily get in other parts of London. So yeah, there was lots to like about Goldsmiths. And for Central St Martin's, that's one of the most prestigious art schools within the arts industries and within the art world. So that was a cool spot. And Kingston was just my safety option. I didn't really mind too much about that one. I had some really good choices there. I would be happy to go to any of those, but I still had that gap, and I couldn't really find anything to fill it with. So I was about to send off my personal statement and my application with only the 4 choices. But then at the last minute, I spotted University of Kent on the UCAS course choice list. I spotted University of Kent there, and so I thought, you know what, let's just throw it on the pile too. I did a little bit of research just to make sure that it was actually something that I might be interested in, and so I threw it on. So I had my 5 choices there. Once that was sent off, that was it. It was time to carry on with life. I just got on with my day-to-day rigmarole, going to school, and getting on with everything there. And then in time, I started to get responses. So I don't know which came first, but I got portfolio reviews and a rejection or 2. And then after the portfolio reviews, I was accepted onto the UAL foundation course. So I got into CCW. And that was great news. I mean, my original choice was to do that foundation year. So I got into that, and I was really happy about getting into that because I really did like the college itself. And so I had that safety net that was there. That was good. I was always going to get into that because I think they had pretty much accepted me unconditionally, I think. But as for the universities, my 5 choices, that's where it was a bit hard because I got rejection after rejection after rejection. And the reason was that they just kept saying, you don't have a foundation course, go and do a foundation course. We're pretty much only accepting people with foundation courses now. And which is understandable because everybody who might have been taking a gap year or anything like that before was now going to apply for university because the prices were going up next year. You should have seen the queue for UCL. It was winding all the way around the corner for the portfolio review because that many people were trying to get in. So then in the end, it came down to the point where I had all my choices rejected me apart from University of Kent, the one which I had never even planned on adding anyway. The last minute throwaway decision. I got an interview from them, and so I said, you know what, let's just go and check this out. Let's go to the interview, you know, whatever you do, whatever opportunities you get, just try your hardest and, you know, because you never know where you might end up. And so I went there for my interview day, and it included the tour and everything, and the instant I went to the place, I knew I liked it, and I knew I wanted to go there. The space was amazing. It was in the Royal Dockyards. It was the Medway campus, not the Canterbury campus. It was the Medway campus, so it wasn't too far from home. It was just outside of East London. The college was set up in a way where we, as students, would have our own space, which wouldn't be troubled. If you looked out your window, you would literally see submarines, a river, ships. It was a really cool space to be in, and the overall vibe was really very nice. The staff were nice, and you know, it just sat well with me. And so I thought that this was a place where I could really grow and, you know, work towards my goals, and which it did actually end up being. So I went through the interviewing process, and I got told literally right there in the interview that I had space. They liked me that much, which was really good. And I went home sort of torn because from the 4 rejections, I was pretty set on now doing a foundation course. I thought there was no way I was going to get into another university now that all those 4 had rejected me. So now, son, I had this option, a university that I really liked, and the foundation course at a university that I really liked, which might actually lead into a degree at another university, which was pretty prestigious, because I might have been able to stay in University of the Arts London and carry on into Central St Martin's or Chelsea if I wanted. So it was a pretty stressful time. I lost sleep over this, and I knew that whichever choice I made would drastically alter the course of my life. There was a good chance that if I took the UAL route, the foundation route, I wouldn't end up doing fine art, whereas fine art was just fine art. I would end up there. I'd already made the choice. So in the end, after thinking on it for a long time, talking to people and discussing it with the people that mattered, and I went ahead with Kent. And as I've said already, I really enjoyed my time there. I'm still amazed when I look back and think about all the good times I had there, all the things I was able to manage, all the people that I met, the amount that I changed during that time for the better. And yeah, I just really enjoyed my time there, and to this day I do not regret any of the choices that I made in terms of the educational route that I took from GCSE right the way through to the end of my degree. After that, I went straight onto my teaching course at Goldsmiths, which I never thought I would do straight after university. I thought it would take me a little bit longer to get into teaching, but I was happy to do that. And the rest is a story for another time. So, yeah, that's it. Question of the day for you guys. If you're in school, where are you planning to go next? What route are you planning to take after this school year ends or after the next school year ends? And if you're already past that part in your life, what route did you take to get to where you are now? Was it an apprenticeship? Was it university? Was it straight to work? What did you do? Let me know down in the comments below. So hopefully you found this breakdown of my route to university and how I made my choices useful and informative. I know lots of you are making choices that are going to affect your life in a massive way, and it starts with where you're going to go and what you're going to do after school. So, try and think hard on it, do all the research you can so that you can get it right first time. It could save you a lot of hassle. But sometimes you won't, and accept that sometimes you won't. So just try your best. And of course, if you'd like to hear more on this topic or any other topics linked to education at school, university or beyond, then be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss out on any of our future content or any of our past content. And also check out the videos that are appearing on screen now. And that's all for today. So thanks for listening. Until next time.